But first, let me orient you to where we are. Now, Kenya is facing something called a youth bulge. We've got over 75% of the population which is aged below 35 years of age. But with a youth bulge comes concerns like unemployment. And youth unemployment in Kenya, there's many different figures here, but some conservative figures put it at about 35%, or about 4.5 million young men and women in Kenya who are unemployed. But also, we've got another challenge that comes with this. Now, this is a big problem. Unemployment is a very, very big problem because a large population of Kenyan youth falls under the youth bracket, or rather the youth bulge that we're talking about. But unemployment rates in Kenya are higher among the youth than the rest. First, of course, we're talking about 10 to 11% overall unemployment rate. But for the youth in particular, it's worrying. Worrying, and it's even worse among women who are disproportionately represented. Now, with us tonight, he's a gentleman who's coming from an organization whose job is to dedicate their time, efforts, insights, ingenuity, and resources to be able to create opportunities for young people to get into employment. Without further ado, karibu sana. Mr. Mukabwa, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me, Victor.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Would you care to tell our viewers, where are you from and what do you do there?
My name is Alvin Mukabwa. I'm the Chief Operations Officer with Generation Kenya. And Generation is a youth education to employment program whose mission is to transform education to employment systems to be able to prepare, place and support young people into meaningful employment that will otherwise be inaccessible.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when you listen to some of these facts, when you look at this, and you work in this industry, you interact, these are not just facts, these are realities on the ground that you interact with. What thoughts come to mind? What do you see when you're interacting with these young people? What do you see?
One, we have to all admit that the problem of youth unemployment is a big problem, and it's multifaceted because on one hand we have a skills mismatch issue. On the other hand, we have economic barriers, we have social barriers. We have young people who on one hand have skills but they can't find a job that matches their skills. On the other hand, we have jobs and there are no young people with the right skills. So I think it's a big problem, and there are different approaches and different players who come in to support. But for us at Generation, we now narrow down to solve this problem of skills mismatch. How do we ensure that we are matching a young person with the right skills to the right job?
All right, yeah. All right. Now, we're coming to that in a bit, but I want you to talk a little more broadly about this challenge. How did we find ourselves here, where we have a youthful population, huge, and the youth were promised they're the leaders of tomorrow. Now, this tomorrow has arrived and there's no leadership. Tomorrow has arrived, there's no opportunity.
Yeah.
The youth were also promised, study, work hard, you're guaranteed a job in a good industry and you will be able to live a good life.
Yeah.
The Kenyan dream, the African dream, the global dream.
Yeah.
It's non-existent. We've got graduates chopping potatoes in restaurants.
Yeah.
We've got other graduates holding up banners on the streets. How did we find ourselves here?
I mean, it's not easy being a young person in this country at this particular time. And as we've highlighted, yes, this problem it comprises of many different issues. On one hand, we know that the main sectors in this country are not able to generate as much employment as the number of young people that we are churning out. On average, we churn out about 1 million plus young people into the job market, but the jobs are not growing.
Every year?
Every year.
Wow.
And the jobs are not growing as much as that number. We have social barriers that these young people are facing, and as you've highlighted, the women are the most marginalized in this case. And so it's many different things. We have the traditional education systems like TVETs, who are meant to be addressing the problem of unemployment through skilling and workforce development, but then there are still gaps existing in between. So it's a mix of different problems, and so the question is, how do we come together as different stakeholders to ensure that we are putting in the right policies, the right infrastructure, the right resourcing, the right skilling to make sure that we are addressing this big problem.
Right. Now, one of the most common things that people talk about is hakuna kazi. There's no jobs. Is this actually true? Are there absolutely no jobs for the people?
Jobs are there. And I think I have to say that in a humble tone, because I think the biggest problem that we are facing is that mismatch that we've just mentioned. And to just take you back, Generation was founded out of a study that was done by McKinsey, where they spoke to employers in very many different countries, and they realized that on one hand, employers are saying that they can't find good entry-level talent, and on the other hand, young people are saying there are no jobs.
Wow.
And so it's a two-sided problem. And so the question is, how do we come in and ensure that we are bridging that gap in terms of that mismatch? How do we make sure that these young people who are saying there are no jobs have the right skills that are needed by employers? And these employers are able to get the right quality of young people at entry level. But to answer your question, yes, jobs are there.
Jobs are there.
Yes.
So, okay, we've got gaps, and clearly your organization has something of a novel approach in bridging some of these gaps. Talk to us a little bit about what the numbers say when it comes to matching people to their jobs. First, you mentioned something interesting. So it's a two-sided problem. You've got employers on this side and you've got the prospective employees on the other. And none of them seem to find a way to talk to each other or to find each other. Just how big of a problem is this? Just how many people, because you guys have been doing a lot of efforts to solve this, how big of a problem is it on the ground?
It really is a big problem, and I think earlier today we were at a conversation with employer partners in the retail space, and they kept reiterating the same problem, that yes, we do have employment opportunities, we have plans for growth, but we are not finding the right young people. And so the question becomes, how do organizations like Generation come in to ensure that, one, we are making young people aware of the type of skilling opportunities that we provide, but two, we are engaging with the same private sector to ensure that we are providing demand-led training to these young people to be able to address the same problem of employment. Otherwise, if we don't come in and intervene, then the same problem continues. But I do feel like there is a lot that is being done. At Generation, since we were launched 9 years ago, we've been able to support more than 30,000 young people into employment, and 84% of that number has actually transitioned into employment. And so this is something that is doable. The question is, how do we ensure that we're able to reach these young people? We're able to take these programs into areas that are not reachable, but we're also engaging more with private sector. Remember that private sector is the biggest asset that we have, because they're the ones who have the jobs. Are we listening to them in training? Are we engaging them enough? Are we able to work with them to ensure that they are giving us their pain points and the issues that they are facing with young people, so that we can incorporate all this into our trainings? At Generation, we pride ourselves in not being a training institution, but a job matching institution.
Right. Listen, so with about 23,000 people successfully transitioning from training into employment. Clearly, there's something you're doing, and it's something that's needed. Talk to us how we can scale those interventions to make 22,000 become 220,000, for example. What's the missing link? Why would you say your organization and others like you are, 22,000 is respectable. Those are guys that wouldn't have had jobs. But how do we make it bigger? How do we make 22,000, 200,000, or 2.2 million? What's the pain? What's a lack?
The lack.
Yes.
I think one is, as just to mention that, yes, much as we've hit that number of 30,000, we still have an ambition of doing an extra 30,000 within the next 5 years.
So you did 30,000 thereabouts in 9 years.
Yes.
But you want to do another 30,000 in
5
years.
Yes.
What do you plan to do different to make that achievable?
One is,
as you talk to us about how to scale.
Yes, one, and to just also address that question of scaling, one is how do we embed ourselves into more public and private partnerships? And for us, we have this big TVET strategy, because we believe that if we can support TVETs to be able to do proper workforce development, then they have more permanent structures that are already existing and anchored on government premise and infrastructure, and they can actually be able to achieve more than we could as an organization. And so within our strategy, one of the ways of us expanding and increasing the sustainability of the work that we do is ensuring that we actually capacity build and strengthen TVET institutions to be able to do the work that we do. But beyond that, we want to ensure that we are broadening and expanding our reach, not just within the sectors that we are in at the moment, but how do we grow into other new sectors? How do we reach more young people in the rural areas? How do we grow beyond the cities and ensure that we are able to take employers in this programming to a more diverse population of young people? So it's a bucket of many different things, but that comes with a lot of internal re-strategizing to ensure that we have the right infrastructure and the right personnel to ensure that we are able to achieve and possibly exceed and go beyond the number of 30,000 within the next 5 years.
It sounds like it's not a job for one person. It's an actual army that's needed.
Exactly.
Now, you said something a little interesting earlier. You're matching skills, youth, you're equipping youth with skills.
Yes.
And then you're matching them with employers who demand those skills.
Yeah.
One would argue that it's a little easier for somebody who's actually had a chance to go to school and had a chance to have some sort of training. Our TVETs are some of the best on the continent, and they're doing quite well. Shout out to the Ministry of Education, the Directorate of TVETs, and all the wonderful people there. But one would also say, what about those guys who never actually make it to school? Yeah. What about the guys who fell off the train because of lack of school fees or other social pressures? The guys who never managed to finish their education? The people who, because of that or many other reasons, do not have access to employment, and the people who also do not have access to training.
Yeah.
One would argue that their situation is a little worse.
And that's the type of youth that we actually target.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, we actually target that underserved group of young people, because what we are trying to showcase here is that if young people have the right skills, and these are young people who've actually either gone up to just class 8 or only Form 4. Our target group of young people is actually Form 4 and below. And we have a diverse portfolio of programs that serve different groups within that group. But what we are saying is that if young people have skills, then they're able to work at the same level or even better than those who have a degree. So there is no hope lost. I think the starting point should be, how do we ensure that we are doing proper skilling? And how we do this at Generation is that we don't start with the training, we start with the employers. Because one of the gaps that we have within our training institutions is that we come up with curricula and training.
And nice courses that sound great on paper.
They don't match with what the employers want. And so for
ground,
it's totally different. And so for us, we first go and speak to the employers to understand what are their pain points.
What are you looking for?
What exactly are you looking for? We do an activity mapping to shadow what exactly is the employer doing, so that by the time we are recruiting this young person, we are recruiting a young person who can actually consume the skills, but also the training curriculum that we make shadows what is happening at work. And so that means that by the time these guys transition from training, they actually don't need apprenticeship. They are ready to work from day one.
Would you care to tell us a little bit about, okay, so what are some of these things that the employers are looking for, but they're not finding, despite the millions of graduates who are looking for jobs, despite the millions of people who believe themselves to be skilled, but are not finding jobs? What are they looking for that is missing in the market?
In the market, one, depending on the different sectors that we focus on, there are different things, but I will say on one bucket is technical skills. How do we ensure that these young people have the right technical skills to actually do the job? If, for instance, today I told you that I want you to come and work for us as a graphic designer, you will need the graphic design skills to be able to actually get the job. But beyond that, it's not that skill that will help you keep the job. We also focus on professional, behavioral, and mindset skills to ensure that these young people are well equipped, one, to thrive on the job, but also to be able to meet the professional environment that the employer is looking for. So you have to address all those things, not just the technical skills, but also the professional and behavioral and mindsets of these young people.
So the stuff that actually keeps you in the job.
Exactly.
Beyond your technical skills.
Exactly. So we don't just focus on job attainment, but how do you ensure that you stay in the job 2, 3, 4, 5 years
and you
continue to grow.
All right. Yeah. Now, imagine for a second, there's a young person watching us. Now, the people at home, I am your representative. I am the young person. Whether I look young or not is a whole other conversation. Now, I am the young person. Tell me what the program entails. What are you taking me through? I have barely gone to school. I know how to read and write. I may have a skill or two here. Take me through the course. What happens? What am I expecting to learn? How long does a course take?
So our trainings are boot camp, and they go between 4 weeks to 12 weeks.
4 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So what am I seeing on the first week? I'm green kabisa. I have no idea. Here I am. I'm hoping to learn something and get something at the end of it. What are you taking me through?
So one, let me take you through the different programs that we offer. At Generation, when we were launched, we started off in the customer service and sales industry. And in this, one of our first programs was the financial service sales program. And here we were training young people how to be able to sell financial products. And once they do this, they're able to work with either insurance companies, they're able to work with banks and other financial institutions. Okay. We also have a retail and restaurant program that where we train young people to be able to work as either stockists, to be able to work as
shop attendants, I imagine.
Stewards and all that. Okay. And we also have a program, a distributed sales program, where we train young people and give them skills to be able to support organizations that we deal with fast consumer moving goods. And so within the financial service sales sector, we have different programs.
So you custom, you tailor make it.
Exactly.
And you've talked to the employers, so you know what they're looking for.
We know what they're looking for. Before we settle on any particular sector, there are different things that we look at.
So let's pick one, for example. I just want the people at home to see what we're talking about. And if you're looking at your screen right now, no doubt you see faces much better looking than us here in the studio. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Miss Universe 2023, Madam Shaines Palacios, originally from the nation of Nicaragua, in South America, or Central America as they call it. That is coming to you live from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. We can see the former sports CS, that is Honorable Ababu Namwamba, who was a patron for the Miss Universe Kenya program. We can see our very own Shiksha Arora, together with some of the other ladies, the Miss Universe Kenya contestants that are actually over there just receiving the very type of woman that they're aspiring to be, Miss Universe. Remember, the competition is to find Kenya's representative to the Miss Universe competition. And the final for the Kenyan event, the Miss Universe Kenya event, is happening tomorrow, on Friday, the 16th, on TV 47. All right? As you see some of those beautiful faces, if you're not blessed in that particular category, you most likely will be looking for a job. And now we want to come back and just continue the conversation on the youth and unemployment situation in the country. So, Alvin, let's pick a sector. Let's say
textile,
for instance. Yeah. So I am a young person. I am interested. Do I have to be interested in it to be trained? Or I just need to show up?
First, show up.
Show up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so for the textile and apparel sector, we recruit young people with Class 8 dropout, Form 4 dropout, You just need to have an ID.
Okay.
And when you come into our centers, one, we take you through an application process where we're able to collect your details. Once we collect your details, we take you through what we call a screening process. And this screening process has been designed to identify that you are suited for this particular industry. For instance, if you look at the textile and apparel industry, one of the key things that employers are looking for is dexterity, the ability to use your hands. You know, they're looking for visual acuity. Are you able to differentiate colors? Because if you went into a manufacturing plant and you can't tell red and green, then you might be mixing.
That's a problem.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things that we check. Once we've checked that, we also take these young people through a reality check, where we just make them understand what does this industry entail? What are the working hours? What is the remuneration like? And once we've identified that this young person is fit to join the program, then they join the program. And how the class is set up is that it mimics the production line that they will find in the factory. And so in the first week, and this, assuming this is a young person who's never even seen a machine, this is the first time that they're actually interacting with it. We take them through behavioral and mindset skills training. We take them through the technical skills, where we teach them how to actually do the different operations that employers are looking for. Because we've discussed and aligned with this employer that before someone comes into the factory, I need them to be able to know how to operate 5 machines and maybe 10 operations from those machines. And so we take them through that for a period of 5 weeks. And by the time they are coming out on the last week, in cases where we've done an employer-embedded program, if, for instance, a young person was going to make this suit, that suit is made while they're still in training. So that we mimic what will be happening at the employers. When this young person transitions into employment, we still work with them, because during training, they are being supported by a team of instructors and, you know, other support staff. But then once they finish training, they're handed over to another team that supports them with that transition into employment. And we take them through that journey to ensure that they now have a job. But we don't just stop there. We have an entire robust mentorship and an alumni support team that offers psychosocial support, you know, supplementary career development and then coaching skills. And so we work with you across that entire journey and make sure that you're actually working, you have a contract, and if there are any concerns, we have a team that ensures that you're supported. So you're part of this larger community of 30,000 other young people.
Right. Sounds good. And hopefully this is something that can be scaled. This is something that other organizations and other stakeholders can take up as a way of solving the youth unemployment problem.
Yes.
Now, as we head towards the home stretch of this conversation, I want you to share some insights. Share with us some of the success stories. I want you to talk to the people at home who are wondering, okay, how can I get this sort of training? I understand your organization has a great capacity, but it's limited compared to the vast number of people that are looking for opportunities. Are you also able to give the young people at home some tips on how to position themselves from the lessons that you've learned in your pipeline process? Are you able to give some people some do's and don'ts on how to make sure that they're able to match the skills that are on demand, or rather in demand, by the employers in the marketplace? Please.
Thank you so much. Let me start with the question of impact. As I mentioned, at Generation, we look at impact on 3 pillars. One is breadth, and this is the volumes of young people that we support. And as I've mentioned, we have graduated more than 30,000 young people.
30,000.
We have partnerships with more than 350 plus employer partners who've either hired from us once or continue to hire from us. We have a portfolio of 8 programs at Generation. But we don't just look at training, we also look at the depth of that training. More than 84% of this population have been transitioned into employment, and we've seen a 3 to 4 times increase in their incomes at the point of 3 months after training.
Wow.
We don't just stop at that point. For us, one of the other things that we keenly look at is durability. Are these young people still in employment 2 to 6 years after we place them into a job? And from our most recent survey that we did, we are seeing that 74% of our young people are still in employment, 2 to 6 years. A very big percentage of them are satisfied with the jobs that they have, and they have grown. And so I will encourage young people, please look out for the opportunities that we're able to offer at Generation. I think also to encourage them, I don't think that failure at the point of basic education or even secondary school defines your future. I think with the right skills, you can be able to do anything. And that's where partners like Generation come in, to ensure that we are empowering you with the skills that you need,
right,
the mindset that you need, to ensure that you're able to not just get your first job, but grow and become a manager. We've seen young people who've come into our programs who didn't even fathom that they can actually become managers. Now they are managers, they are supervisors. They have gone ahead to, out of the salaries they've been getting, to advance their education. So mine will be to encourage young people that please don't lose hope. Seek out for such opportunities. Go to our website, look at the different programs that we have, reach out to our team, and we'll be able to get back to you and support you on how you can be a beneficiary.
All right, and that's Generation. Just give us the website for the people at home.
www.generation.org.
www.generation.org. All right, thank you so much. Now, thank you so much for the insight. Thank you, Mr. Mukabwa, for coming. Thank you for the insights you've shared, and for the hope to the people at home. Good people, it's not the end. Even if your education journey was cut short at some point, clearly there is hope. There is a track record. There are people who are able to find opportunities. As long as you take the time to learn what the market requires, equip yourself, or through partners like this, equip yourself, and you'll be able to find a place in the world. We thank you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen at home, for choosing us to inform you this evening. My name is Victor Muyakane. It's been my pleasure to serve you this evening. Good night.